No break, no jam, no sense. A joro jar, a joro, joro, joro. Attention.
Welcome back to the Green Passport Podcast. As always, I'm your boy. You guys already know, Okiki and Emmanuel. But today, yeah, we have family in the building, bro. Man like Seidu. My brother Ohine is with us, man. Wagwan, bro. What are you saying?
Thank you so much for having me, guys. Honestly, before we even start, yeah, shout out to these guys. We're talking about hardworking people. Shout out to my. Well, I know these guys for a while, so I know what they're capable of. But shout out to them. Honestly, I'm really proud of them, and more good news coming their way for sure.
My guy.
Amen.
Sure,
Bless,
man,
my
for
guy.
sure.
Bless, bro. Really
Crazy
appreciate
that
it.
it's taking this long to get someone as wonderful as Ohiz on this, Because you would think that the first person we would get would be Ohiz because of how, right now.
Anyway, man, today we're getting into it's a topic that I don't feel like is actually spoken about enough really publicly. And I actually just kind of want to see what everyone's take on it, be it just this conversation and the people listening back home. So, backstory here, all four of us actually have the privilege to be educated abroad, essentially. I'm in Sheffield right now. Ifeanyi is in London. Okiki is in Scotland, and my boy Ohine is currently in Canada right now. So all of us have essentially left Nigeria for the sake of education and a better life, or whatever the case may be. In line with that, people have argued, especially even our parents' generation, who say that we're essentially losing the culture within us. A lot of the ways in which we raise, like our cultural traditions, the norms, and everything. Language is being lost, practices, and whatever the case may be. So, do you guys agree with that sentiment? Like, I'm just going to open the floor to everyone else first. Like, what do you guys think about that?
Oh yeah. No, Ohine, please, your guest, please.
Yeah, I definitely do agree with the statement in terms of how our culture is currently being lost over time from generation to generation, especially from our generation. So I definitely do agree with the statement. Can it get better? Yes. But for now, we do have like some places we need to speak about and also like work on it for it to get better. But definitely, it's been lost. It's definitely been lost. Yeah.
Emmanuel, what going?
My name is Ifeanyi.
That's not what we see. That's not what we're seeing on the screen, dude.
It's a typo.
That's not what we're seeing on the screen, dude.
It happens. I mean, I take the opposing stance. I don't really think that our culture is being washed away. In fact, I think we've actually gotten to a point where it's starting to be cool to be African and to embrace your Africanness. But of course, that's a generalization. From my own perspective, I've never felt any shame about being African. My accent is the way it is. The only thing is that there's sometimes in this place you may have to slow down a bit or tweak your accent so people can understand what you're saying,
Or change your name.
Or
So that I don't butcher it.
I will get to that. But I mean, if they can understand me and they speak my accent like that, they think they concept me. Whenever I speak to Ohiz and Okiki, that pidgin that they speak, I rarely ever speak English,
And nobody will make you they speak quiz English.
Imagine.
However, they speak quiz English by people in Greece. So, in relation to the language bit, so me and my brother, our stuff is actually kind of different because we understand Igbo, but our parents never actually told us knife is mba. Mba is fine. This is that. I think we just picked it up from them speaking to each other because they barely speak English to each other. And you'd be surprised what kids can pick up when they're young. So I was never taught Igbo, I just understand. Now, in terms of speaking, I can speak it, but not fluently, because I might need like a split second to think of what the word means or things like that. But I'm working on that. That's just from my own perspective. But I don't think like I definitely think before, yeah, but now, like I said, it's kind of getting cool to be Nigerian. so much so that you see white people going to the extent of saying, I'm 0.05% Caribbean. Bow. That's what I think.
Before I get into my point, Okiki, can you give your own opinion on this?
I'm kind of like differing on it, to be fair. I understand what Ine is saying, that, we are, sometimes it would have seemed that, we're moving away from our culture, not, um, you know, not being involved with it. But I think that's just a few of us that have traveled. The majority of people back home that our age can't speak our languages, do understand the languages, pretty fluently. We're just the 2% or 3% that don't understand it, but maybe can't speak it. Or if you're on the very unfortunate bit, you can't do, either of them. But yeah, it's bad, but it's not terrible.
Okay.
I wouldn't say the culture is going extinct or it's losing its touch or anything. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm kind of in the middle of everyone. In one respect, it's like, okay, like you do see, like, even all of us, I'm sure to an extent we all understand like a mother tongue and everything else. But you guys ever see it as a thing where some people's like, I see it as well. It's not just because us, we're a very small sample size, and I do know a lot of people that can speak their languages like very fluently. But I know a lot of people back home that maybe, even talking about people that never even had the opportunity to go to school abroad and whatever. It's like they don't know the language. And to be fair, like a lot of people, they would like put that on us. It's like, oh, we never took like the time or the effort to learn the language. But a lot of us, our parents actually never really cared to teach us. It was more of a thing that it would be spoken in the house or whatever. But and you pick up what you can. But some people don't pick up anything at all, and then just going in line. I don't feel like all these languages and the cultures and practices something that's going extinct anytime soon. But there's a pattern right now, being of people that, again, if you don't know the language or never, or who don't even really identify with it, for example, and then you start your own family with, say, someone that doesn't as well, slowly and slowly, like, the retention of said languages will actually go extinct. It's not going to happen anytime soon, but it's bound to happen with the way things are going. Like I said, I'm like, I'll speak for myself, and I understand Yoruba. Like, my parents can speak to me fluently Yoruba, and I understand everything that they're saying to me. But if you ask me to speak Iwala, if I'm being very honest, like, I'll always struggle to pick up certain things, certain lingo and whatever. My pidgin is fantastic, bro, but Yoruba, my Yoruba is very Ichiwashi. I then say I was to marry someone here in the UK, like, for example, whatever. What are the chances that I'm going to be able to instill said things to them, especially if I decide to live here? You get me?
Mm.
Just say something. I think because the argument that my parents didn't teach me, like it's an argument that I've heard a lot of times, but I don't know if it's really an excuse, to be fair, because like, okay, I don't want to use my own situation. Maybe my own situation is a special situation. I don't know. And by the way, I'm talking about instances where obviously both parents are from the same tribe. So if I can pick up Igbo while living in Lagos, then I mean, why can't somebody who is Yoruba living in Lagos not be able to pick it up?
True.
Yeah.
And one thing you also have to remember as well is, like, some people actually just don't care enough to want to learn it.
Yeah, some
People
people
actually,
they don't care enough.
yeah, some people actually really do not care enough, for being super honest. Like, we went to school with people that they're Nigerians by default. Let's just even be super honest. Like, they're just Nigerian by default and placement. Like, they don't really care or identify with what it is to be Nigerian. So it's easy for that to just, be like their culture or whatever, to wash away because they don't identify it. Yes, like Okiki said, we're the 2% of like a very privileged lot that can afford to not really care about their culture or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a very slippery slope, man. Because at the end of the day, it's like, even down to our partners, locations, and stuff. It's actually something that can actually just get washed away. It's not gonna happen anytime soon. But okay, let me even just throw in this question: how do you think that moving forward, like, our generation should like encourage, like, actually like putting our culture forward and learning it? because now, like Ifeanyi said, it's cool to be African and whatever, and it's easy to say, "Oh, I'm from Nigeria," and whatever. But then, what do you actually do that actually shows you're Nigerian, except from putting up the flag when it's actually convenient? What is Nigerian? What is it to be Nigerian to you?
You know,
Okay.
I was gonna talk about what Ifeanyi was saying about how it's not really the parents' fault. For example, we picked up English, yeah, and I know we're taught English in school, but when we weren't actually taught how to speak English, we just taught how to like write academic essays, or read stuff and comprehend them. But if we can do that with English, why didn't we do that with Yoruba or Igbo or Hausa? It's almost like we didn't really care, and there's a bit of fault in our parents with our parents because perhaps they didn't speak the language enough. I know a few Nigerian parents are like this, not all, but a few. Some of them don't even want they don't even want their kids to learn it. They want their kids to be more fluent in English than in their,
For the
local
sake of
language.
foreign
Yeah.
opportunities and stuff like that, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So sometimes the parents are at fault, maybe more times than not, to be honest, because kids pick up really fast, especially in their formative years. Do you get what I mean? So,
I do agree with what you said, Okiki. But we have to like kind of understand, like, obviously there are different types of cultures, right? I think these are like when I was reading and trying to understand this topic in general. When we talk about culture, we have both the material and non-material culture. So non-material culture in terms of our values, in terms of like the way we see ourselves and values, and but like material cultures in terms of like the craft, the art, and all that.
yeah.
So, when you said something about English not being taught per se, I don't 100% agree with that, because it's like in Nigeria, for example, we speak English. In fact, a lot, right? But if you notice in our institution, for example, don't let me call out any school, but the school
We don't do free press here. We don't shout them out anyways. Continue.
The school we went to, we, especially in elementary school, we only had a Yoruba class that probably ran from year 3 to year 6. When we moved to secondary school, that was the end. Right. And if you notice, why do we, we did French, right?
Yeah.
And how many of us can speak it?
That's so bad.
Because we're taught, but we don't actually say. You can't learn a language if you don't speak it. You can't read it. It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense if you read it. But if you don't practice it by speaking with other people, then it's not possible. And I think that's the problem that we faced in Nigeria. And that's like my own perspective in terms of, obviously it's not a general thing for everybody. But like I feel, especially with language, if we're going to look at language perspective, if we're speaking Yoruba, it's probably within the brackets of our home. We're not coming outside to speak Yoruba, it's going to be English. Right? But speaking Igbo is going to be within our family, or probably our cousins and all that. And when we come to the world, or to a school or any English we speak. So that's why it's a bit hard. And I don't really blame our parents. But what I'm saying is, for my mom example, for example, she speaks. In fact, it's sometimes I don't even hear her speak English, unless it's like she's working, right? But she speaks Yoruba to us all the time. And now, like you said, I think Ifeanyi made mention of having, in context of having the parents from the same tribe. But what happens whereby it's not from the same tribe, or it's not from the same?
Yeah.
Right? And now, in my own case, so I'm from Kogi, right? Kogi State, but my mom is Ijebu. She speaks Yoruba to us. My dad doesn't speak his language unless he's speaking to his family, right?
I was going to get into that.
And he always speaks to his family, and children have the tendency of learning their mother's language based on like the relationship and the bond. So now my own case, forgets my dad's culture is any god. There's no, and I feel bad anytime I think about it, because I only know the basic greetings and that's it. And for my mom, now the mistake, and part where I'd say I don't blame parents. If you want to learn language, if you want to learn anything, you put yourself through the whole system and you try to learn it. Exactly. My mom speaks Yoruba to me, but the issue I had, or I still have, is that I respond back in English. Though I understand perfectly well, but I respond back in English, and that's a problem. If I'm going to learn the language, it's meant to be, it's an interaction, right?
So if she's speaking to Yoruba to me, I should be able to reply in Yoruba and not in English. And that's where there's some barriers with in terms of culture from the non-material part. That is the art. I mean the art, yes, and values. I mean not the art, values rather.
Yeah.
I have something to say, something I actually just thought about when I actually just considered the fact that, Ohine was talking about the fact that we're made to learn like French or whatever in school and stuff. Like, first of all, colonialism is a motherfucker. And what I mean by that is like even just like studying history, but it's in secondary school especially, did we ever really do Nigerian history? No.
Wasn't like people that was vexing for me about Biafran war because I didn't.
Bro, I wanted to kill people that day, man. Figuratively, sure. But can I defend the school a little? Because schools like that are preparing us for places like this. And there's a limited amount of time in each day. So obviously they're gonna have to prioritize some certain things. Maybe what we're saying they can implement between year 7 and year 9, because then it's just general stuff, doesn't really matter. And like the real streamlined focus stuff starts in year 10. So I can kind of understand why they make us learn French, for example, from year 10 to year 11 instead of
we did it from year 7 and elementary school, bro. We've been doing, at least I've been doing French.
Okay, no, I don't know about from elementary, but
we went to the same elementary school.
No, wait, that's what I mean. I mean, like, I'm not defending the elementary side. That's what I mean.
Okay.
That's first of all. And second of all, in the school we went to, they were teaching Yoruba only. And I think that's, well, to be fair, Lagos is a Yoruba state. And also, you actually have to go forward because, like, there are a lot of languages.
Yeah.
So the question then becomes, how many languages can we teach? Because if you then limit it to the 3 main ethnic groups, other people are like, why are you teaching my language? And they have a point. So,
I would even go as far as to argue whether teaching of languages in institution is even worth it, because I've learned French. I don't know French, guy. I've been learning French since year 7. No, you're laughing at me. How many of you have you speak French?
Bro, I know Sabi, man. Even the Yoruba they were teaching me in primary school, I know Sabi.
I would even say that people pick up Yoruba more in songs than even in school. Yeah.
You know one thing that I would have actually done, is that if I was like running an educational institution, that I would have Yoruba, Hausa, and Igbo classes. However, you just be like during, say, a period is like you're supposed to have Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, or whatever. You go to the one like in line with what you are. So that way you are learning your language. So, for example, if fine being in a Yoruba like class doesn't necessarily mean, okay, yes, fine. Like Yoruba next to English is probably one of like the most spoken language in Lagos, at least. But he's Igbo at the end of the day. Both his parents are Igbo at the end of the day. And if he was to learn Igbo in school and go back and hear Igbo, that's going to be reinforced and he will know how to pick it up. Something like that. Him learning Yoruba, like he said, after he left primary school, that was the end. He never had any reason to learn it, and he probably never picked it up.
When I was in this school, I was not letting shake you, man. Even how to say my name, I was not letting shake him. Well, to be honest, I think this question is actually a very complicated one, man.
So complicated.
Also, in regards to the point Ohine said about us not going outside to speak it in society, I actually think that's a problem that is confined to Lagos. And I think it's just because Lagos is like London. Lagos is Yoruba on paper, but it's like a multicultural city because Lagos is Lagos City. When I go up to the village, like when I go to Abia or Anambra, people don't speak English outside. People will understand English if you speak it to them first, but the default is Igbo. So I mean, obviously I haven't been to every state. So from my experience, I think it's just the Lagos thing. Or you guys are Yoruba, so I mean, you can, if it's the same in those states.
My thing. So, first of all, it's even mad. I'm actually not even Yoruba. It's mad. I'm not even Yoruba. My dad is Edo. I don't know a lick of Edo, but it's what going down to what Ohine said, being that like number one, like my dad wasn't always there. Literally all my dad's family lives elsewhere, but like 80% of my mom's family is in Lagos. So I'm always hearing Yoruba. My dad learned Yoruba So my dad would also speak Yoruba to me. So well and truly, it's like all I really know is Yoruba. I don't know a lick of Edo. So like Ohine said, my Edo in terms of the language, I still make sure to study the history and everything, but in terms of the language, is gone. Like from my own side, the Edo language is gone. I've acknowledged it and it's not great. But going down to everything else here, it's like, yes, we do have to. That's why I said I made an effort to learn about the history, the stuff, the practices, and everything else. But the language is gone because nobody really thought to teach me Edo. And going to your point of saying this is a phenomenon that only exists in Lagos, I disagree, bro. Because even here, I know people from Port Harcourt, Abuja, so many other places, even Igbo people now, like a lot of them don't know their language either, and some don't care to at all.
And did they grow up here or in Nigeria?
You see, they grew up in Niger. That's what I'm saying. Not if they grew up here, that's different. Like that's different. They grew
I
up.
think
in
it's also a
Niger.
Nigeria problem too, because other guys from like Southern Africa, like Zimbabweans and Zambians, can speak
They
their
know
language.
their
Yeah,
language.
yeah.
language. Yes.
Yeah.
But is it the same? I actually never bothered to ask. Is it the same as it is in Nigeria? Like, is it just one universal language, or is it like 200?
No, the thing is like even in like say
Depends on their
Zimbabwe,
colonies,
for
innit?
example. Yeah, that's one thing. It's like even in Zimbabwe, like they have bare languages. Ghana, same thing. But it's like in fact, there's even Yoruba and Igbo and all that in Ghana, but that's a topic for another day. It's like a lot of them actually know their languages like fluently. We don't. And I don't know whether it's because of obviously like just how late England left Nigeria, being 1960 or whatever, or a lot of families like cross like again, my dad being Edo, my mom being from Ijebu, like even all that happening is like sometimes, not in all cases, the culture can almost get washed away because you either focus on one or somebody just doesn't focus on any at all. So,
Although I don't think culture is gonna get washed away, Sha, because there are 200 million people in Nigeria. Approximately, that's even the amount of people we know of. So that's an approximation, you know. And we're like, what? Even if I'm being generous, the 10%, and even from the 10%, let's say 3, 4, 5% like us still understand the language, you know. And then the other 190 something million people, they predominantly speak their language, I believe. Maybe I don't know how to explain, because like if you go to Mushi, are you gonna hear people speak English?
Nah.
Yes,
Pidgin.
Pidgin highest. Pidgin highest.
Pidgin is the unifier. Everybody knows that one, no matter where you're from.
Facts.
You know, anybody that says they don't know Pidgin who grew up in Nigeria is a couple.
Bro, I know people. Bro, I know people in our age group that was like, "How can I be speaking Pidgin or what?" And even speaking of Pidgin, I remember I got in trouble when my parents found out I could speak Pidgin, because the thing is, I picked it up from one of like let me just say like employees in the house, innit? Like let me just say
He's the husband employee. Oh my god!
I didn't say that one though. I didn't say that one. I beg.
See how they are forming here when they go back tonight. Come here.
I
didn't say that one. I beg. I picked it up.
Employee. I've just said uncle, man. Everybody's uncle.
Okay, cool. But yeah, my mom heard me speaking it and she lost it. It's like, who taught you that bush language? Blah blah blah. That's not what you're supposed to be learning and everything else. And first of all, it's like, Mom, see, I know you can speak this even better than me. So which one? I don't want to hear that. Like I've heard you speak it, like especially in traffic. But that's another thing. So it's like, but why is it a thing that you don't want me to learn that? I always asked her that, I was like, why don't you want me to learn Pidgin? Because it's actually, if I didn't know Pidgin,
synonymous with education, no. There was a time
synonymous with intelligence.
Exactly. Yeah, it's synonymous with intelligence. Yeah. There was a time I was watching, I think it was 2015. Yeah. I was watching the Ballon d'Or on TV when Messi won it. Yeah. And I was watching my uncle. He was giving his speech in, I don't know if it's Spanish or it was
Spanish.
Yeah. And my uncle was like, see him, yeah, although he's winning Ballon d'Or, but he can't even speak English. I was like, this man can buy all of us here. Like, what is his inability to speak English have anything to do with his success or his intelligence. Yeah,
He
and a
can
lot of
communicate with his teammates. That's all that matters, bro.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of Nigerians share this sentiment about thinking English is synonymous with intelligence.
It's what we were taught, man. We've always been taught that, like as Africans, always been taught that we're inferior, kind of. That's why the one that baffles me here, I can't even lie, it makes me sick, is when I see Nigerians giving an interview in Nigeria and they somehow obtained this hybrid accent that I don't even know how they're even speaking the things. Just like you see people, but I know it was a big thing to mock like Igbo people with the L accent. See, if it's L accent you have, speak your Disney how it is. It's not that deep, bro. Because I've been here for 4 years, yeah. And because of the way uni is, you meet a whole host of people. I know Italians, I know Germans, I know them niggas, and they speak English with their accent. They don't care. I don't know why it's such a big deal for us, man. If I marry somebody who's not Igbo, if I marry a white woman, see my son, you won't be able to tell the difference to somebody that grew up in night and you won't be able to tell the difference.
I was gonna get into that, Okay, fine. Like, would you say, okay, I know your Igbo is still like pretty good for like the average like Nigerian in your circumstances or whatever. So say you were to actually, to be fair, this is a spoiler, you probably marry a white woman and then you live in the UK.
I fetish, or I do like I beg. All I said was
I beg.
I'm not looking for white woman specifically.
Let's pretend.
Disclaimer before I'll see my name trending. What I said was that I won't not marry somebody because they are not Igbo. That's what I said. I didn't say I was marrying so
the people have heard you. But let's say, let's say that you were to marry a white woman and you live in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Do you honestly believe it's going to be easy for you to instill your culture and the languages in your
youth? Going to be easy?
You know what the answer is. Especially have to remember the fact that you're the father, which means just in line with especially your profession as well. When you're barely going to be home.
Wait. Is it going to be
even
easy?
If he's home, Sam? He's in the
if you're home. It's like Ohine said. Let me just finish my thought. But like Ohine said, like kids are more likely to pick up the languages of their mothers just off the caring nature. They're always there for you. They're the person with you for the most part of your formative years. So naturally, if your wife is Spanish, okay, she'll be doing.
Let me tell you something. See, will it be easy? No. Okay. But will I instill it by fire, by force?
Not only you go.
I know people who grew up here. Okay, they can't speak it out because of the accent or whatever, but they understand. And they make an active effort to learn. At least they know stuff about the country. So it's either he doesn't know it or you will know it. You will know. Have you met me?
How exactly will you instill it if you yourself don't particularly speak it fluently?
100%.
So the thing is that, so now the way I am, because it's better because I understand, but I don't speak. It will not be difficult for me to learn how to speak.
You'll be surprised.
I can. The only reason I don't speak is because the conversation will flow because there'll be little pauses in between. It's not because I don't know what to say per se. So I can just make a conscious decision today that every day I will try and say something, or when I'm thinking to myself, I'll think to myself an Igbo or some shit like that. But I think it's an issue that's very solvable. But there are other things. But culture isn't just limited to language. There's history, there are traditions, and the sensible traditions, and other things like that. Those ones, don't worry now. So you're going to work in language. Copy me. You'll copy me. Don't worry. So I mean, I'm not too fussed about that. Obviously, you'd also have to learn Spanish too. But I mean, if you have a Spanish nigga speaking Igbo or an Igbo nigga speaking Spanish, I mean, they won't be the first.
Yeah, it won't be the first. It's actually quite decent, to be honest.
Well, okay. Even going into something else here, let me even say Spanish because that's a bit of a reach. Let's even say she's English and you're living here in England, which means her family is more accessible to her than your family, which probably for the most part is in Nigeria. So, whose culture just naturally do you think they're going to be more in line with?
So I love this question because I have aunties, so particularly from my mom's side,
Okay.
who migrated here sometime in the past. Yeah. They have kids, my cousins, who are, some of them are older than me, some of them are my mates. And if you meet them, you will know that they grew up here because of their accents. But they're every bit as Igbo as me. There's nothing I don't know that they don't know, but there's nothing I know that they don't know.
Even the jokes.
The jokes, I don't know how to explain this one, man. It's not like 100% thing, but maybe 50, 60, 70. Even my aunties, because my aunties, their accents are still fake. Not as thick as ours, but you can still tell. And even from the way they behave, from the way they act, you will know that they're Nigerian. And they've been able to pass this on to their children, obviously. I don't know, man. Maybe you guys will be
It makes sense,
But you also have to remember, like them being able to pass it on to the kids because they can speak it fluently, though. You get me? Like they can speak it fluently, but can you?
This speaking fluently thing is not okay. I believe I see what you mean, but I believe that it won't be difficult for me to bridge the gaps in my speech. I don't think it will be difficult at all. I think it's something I can just wake up and do. The difficult part is understanding the language, if you ask me. And I understand the language. So I do, because, yeah, I understand what you mean. But I don't think it will be difficult for me to learn how to speak. Because, I mean, going from understanding a language to speaking it is not that difficult.
Yeah, I get what you mean, Ifeanyi. But like, you also have to remember that that's only one exception, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know? So, like, for you, understand, you understand it. But now we're not only looking at it in the short term, we're looking at it in the long term, right? So we're passing culture from one generation to another. So for example, now you understand it, and you said, "Oh, you can learn how to speak," which is very true. You know, if you surround yourself with people with the same culture, also it helps. You know, and like you said, culture is, like I said, culture is non-material and also material in terms of values and all those stuff. But why it's a bit, it's not as easy. It does, my own perspective, why I feel like it's not as easy as it is because now it's, for example, let's say your wife is English. The children have a tendency to shift towards that. And for me personally, I told myself that, it's based on the whole stereotype of our fathers and all that. I have to bridge that gap. So if my children are close to my wife, they have to be close to me. And it's not like they have to, but like I'll create that safe environment for them.
Yeah.
So now you understand Igbo, and let's say you try to learn it, is it going to be 100%? We're not too sure, and now you're teaching your kids. Now, like we said, they have a high tendency, especially with the environments where they live in England too, right? So it's easier for them to kind of relate to the culture. But now that's where you now have to work. And that's the scary part, because if you don't do your job, it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah. It's literally gone.
And you have to work double.
Exactly, double. Yeah. And that's if they're interested. If they're not
interested, man, that's true. And if I want condition them to be interested,
you can condition them.
Don't worry.
I see you can condition them. A lot of the stuff our parents conditioned us to do. How is that? How did that work out for them? Because
they conditioned me to do a lot of things that I do, Sha. This unapologetic, my father will go outside and he'll be speaking his Igbo. What he concerned him, he will go outside and he'll be speaking his Igbo. Doesn't change his accent, doesn't do anything.
One other thing you also need to remember, is that a village raises a child. It's not even just like a phrase thing. Like it's really a village raise a child thing. And again, raising a child here, like in England, where they're probably even going to go to schools, the majority white kids, white teachers, stuff like that. The only play, and say your wife is like that too. So everything bar you, literally everything bar you is pushing them towards learning English and then the English norms and practices and all that. Yeah. So for you, with no offense here, but then just that like not the incomplete level of like the knowledge of the Igbo language and everything else. Do you know how hard one present you have to be for that to actually happen? And yes, you can say, "Oh, I have aunties that live here, whatever." You're not going to see them every day. Your kids are going to see their friends every day. They're going to see their mom every day. You're going to see the teachers every day. Like
You have to put a master class to pull
for
it
the
off,
most
man.
part.
See, it's not, first of all, you underestimate me. Second of all,
Sorry, you.
second of all, I know during their phone now, this is my job. My job is to make them actually fall in love with the culture. The job is not to teach them everything. My job
But
is to make
if I, sorry, I have to
live
stop you.
cool.
No, I have to stop you there because that is also a problem that Nigerian parents have, trying to make kids fall in love with stuff. That's what makes them fall out
Wait,
of love.
no, the mission,
see, I beg, you have
the
to fall in love
mission,
with your
the
culture.
mission, the tactics can make them fall out of love with it, but the mission is always right.
The mission is right, but
But wait, we know people that go the extra mile to read about Nigerian history. That's my work. My work is from the moment they're born to when they're like, maybe let's just say 17, because 18 is the generally accepted age for adulthood. By 18, they should be able to, on their own, go out and research on, oh, what happened during the Biafra War? Oh, how was Nigeria formed? Oh, this or that, or this or that. And I understand that the kind of society they're living in may disincentivize them from doing that. But that depends on, I'm this child's father. That depends on me, bro. I will be more important to this child than this entire country. Forget about it. As long as I do my work. I don't know if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't know if you get it. Because if, for example, if my parents tell me something, because they're sensible people, I'm more likely to take their advice into account than some random person streets or whatever. But don't worry now, Shebi will know, unless I die early. But apart from that,
God forbid, man.
you
But
see Ifeanyi.
when you were a kid, and say you were in GSL and a group of your friends told you something and your parents told you, who you listen to at that age?
Oh, that's very situational, sure.
Mm.
Because I understand peer pressure is a thing, yeah.
I think kids tend to drift more to their friends because they believe that their friends are going through the same things. They probably understand it. Oh, my parents are a bit old, they're not living in the same world as I am when they were my age. You get what I mean? So
And just going how stupid kids can be.
yeah,
Like, just as stupid kids can be, especially in this UK, raising a kid here, like just stuff like say imagine they're going for lunch now, you give them a banigusi to take, and then you've heard how many stories of people, not even just kids, but people in the workplace making fun of
guy,
making
don't
fun
do
of
that, man.
making fun of the food, the smells, and stuff like that. Like, how many times have we heard stories? How many times have we heard stories like this? And kids hear that stuff, they listen to it, innit? Like literally, I was watching a Nice Baby podcast the other day, and man like Fred, man was talking about how for 10 years he didn't eat. He never even tried fufu just because white people use that as like a word to just generalize all African food and make fun of it. So because of that, I was like, he never tried fufu because it was like, oh, I don't eat that African stuff.
Okay,
Bro,
but
kids are
my answer to
stupid,
this one is simple. Do you know why I can get hired today and I can carry my fufu and go into work and eat it? Unless they threaten to sack me, that's by the way. Do you know why I can do that?
Why?
Because I'm confident enough in myself, I'm confident enough in my culture, and I don't care what people.
You are, not your kids.
Thank you, I am. Now, my job is to instill those same feelings, those same values in my child. It may not happen initially when they're young. Obviously, if that happened to me when I was 13, 14, I would have probably done the same thing Fred did, but not now. So that's why I said my job is from between when they're born, let's say 18 is my target. I'll teach them in summary how to have sense. It will be quite unfortunate if it turns out that they are senseless at the end of all my teachings.
It's quite unfortunate.
That's the risk I just have to take.
I feel you.
Unless they threaten to sack. If they threaten to sack,
That's true.
Would you guys send your kids back tonight?
So, Okiki, you said something.
Would you guys send your kids back tonight? So, we've heard what Ifeanyi said. But in the event that Ifeanyi's plan fails, wouldn't the next alternative be to send your kids back tonight to have that fear of that culture? Because let's be honest, yeah, the only way to actually experience it is to be where it was created. You won't experience it in England or in Scotland. Come on.
Okay, so see, I know you guys, anyone who watches the podcast religiously knows that I love Nigeria to bits in it.
Yeah.
But the country is in
Nested for
shambles. Is in shambles. I cannot carry my child out of a country that will give him more opportunities and then put him into a country that not only would they not give him opportunity, they would try and break him in the name of teaching him how to be Igbo. I'm sorry. I know it sounds fucked up, but that's just because why are we here? If we're being honest with ourselves, it's because you get great opportunities from being here, as unfortunate as it is. That's why you're going in Niger. So, I mean, I respect parents who raise their children in Niger, you know, but whether or not I will be willing to do that will depend on the state of the country when I have it out. Maybe it can get better. If Nigeria do okay, waiting I go to look for Grace.
What in Nigeria in the States it is when you were a kid, when you were in GSL?
That one's kind of 50-50.
It was, what do you mean 50-50? See, I can't lie. Like, you guys, again, anyone that watches the podcast or hears me speak about something like this knows, like, I want to raise my kid back home. Like, almost the same way. Obviously, it's a one, innit? Like, there's only so much that can happen regardless. But then I want to raise my child in Nigeria, almost essentially like the same thing my parents did for me if Nigeria's educational institutions don't improve, be it that from formative years till right after secondary school. After secondary school, then okay, fine, I can start looking for opportunities for you elsewhere, wherever. That's always been the goal. And that's why I always say I want to marry a Nigerian woman, so it'd be easy. Even if she's from here, it'd be easy to have that conversation. Like, I can't lie, I want to raise my kid here in Niger, wherever it be.
If you marry in Nigeria, yes, she still disagree, but fair enough.
That's what I'm saying. She could actually disagree, but then there's a better chance. Like, there's a better chance she'll
attend a Spanish woman.
Thank you. Like forget everything you've ever known. Forget everything you've ever known. Come to Niger. What? Like, I want to raise my child in Nigeria. Facts.
How about you? Me, I think differently, man. What about you, man?
I'm never gonna lie, you know, because it's. I'm not even see Nigeria right now. Yeah, I'm never. Would I take my children for holidays? Yes.
Yeah.
Take them back. I think that's the part where I'm afraid, because, like, you know, like, my parents are here, so if I'm going to Nigeria, it's probably just for holiday and all that. So now it's, if I'm going to take them back, it's going to take a whole lot of thinking, and so I'm not too sure. I can't answer now. If not, hopefully by God's grace, by God's grace, Nigeria gets better, right? I wouldn't mind. In fact, what am I doing here? What are we doing? No, let's don't lie. What are we doing?
Just no one talk out, so they don't go here now. They go extend my.
Nigeria was good. We will not be here now.
What are we doing here? Like,
and you have to remember that, like, it's a lot. Obviously, we just did this for the sake of conversation, but if we're talking about practically, it's a lot. Asking somebody to, especially if you're marrying a Black person who grew up here, asking somebody to uproot their lives here, even yourself, you go get work for night.
No, but everything is dependent on if I find work in Niger now.
It's a lot, man. Like, moving from one country to another.
You don't even have to. You don't have to have work there. You can be here and keep them in GSL boarding house now. So you not survive that one.
So your mama and papa don't go to Lagos.
I mean, even if they were in Lagos. Okay, if you were in boarding house here, even if your parents were abroad, would it have made any difference when you were in boarding house?
Yes, actually, because I still felt kind of, if anything, I still, as a kid, because it was even in Bagada, and that's where we live, I still felt kind of close. I still felt kind of protected, because it's not those hostel people, hostel this thing are looking for protection. Those ones, do they count on me? What I do is that if something happened, my parents were just a phone call away. If anything happened to me, they'll come and carry me from the boarding house, you know. So that feeling of safety is even, I don't know about you guys, but when I got here initially, for the first 2 months, I was, yes, I can do it now. Then by the 3rd month, I was like, wait, I'm actually here alone. Obviously, I have aunties, but my parents are in Niger. So if there's any emergency, I can't.
There's no instant, yeah.
Come and say you, like him.
It's nothing like that.
It would be a lot for a kid of 13, 14, 15 staying in a country alone. Unless maybe if my brother is there, then fair enough, because my brother is practically me. So
Yeah.
Me, I can't see if my kids are else, I can't.
You can't.
Because me, I'm kind of like a family person, right? So
Yeah.
I can't be in one country and my family, my kids.
So if God forbid an emergency happens and I'm in a whole continent away and I have to start looking for flights away, I beg.
Look, me personally, yeah, I can keep my kids in Nigeria
possible.
and work.
I
know.
I
just keep them the but the thing is, just before it's time to pick them up, like summer break or Christmas break, I'll be back in Nigeria and I'll chill with them, And I don't know, man. I'll just make it effective to like make sure that someone's watching them or something, My parents will be in Nigeria anyways. I'm sure my parents will always, be pumped up to go see their grandkids in boarding house. So I think it can work. I don't have to be there, especially if my parents are still alive and they're still in Nigeria. That would be perfect. But I do want my kids to at least have secondary school in Nigeria, man. Imagine if they also they have come out like.
To be fair, I think that's where we differ, sure. Because for me, see, my child has to be at arm's length, because you see this world out of beings, man. This world bro. Any small thing while, so they have to be right beside me. I already had the episode where I told you guys that between that 0 months and 17, I'm a dictator. Call me. And if I say jump, is how high, not how high. Not I know what to jump. So I mean, the whole continent thing would be a lot. I mean, if my parents are there, fair enough. But my parents have tried. At that point, I want them to be resting, not to be raising another child.
Oh, you'd be surprised. They'll be too happy to do it, man.
Yeah,
spending time with their grandkids, they'll be too happy.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Man.
I was even thinking about. When we're talking about the whole pigeon stuff, many things came to my mind, and it's like I remember back then in GSO, Okiki, you gotta be like Okiki, you have to be like Tolu, you have to be like Osahon, Ifeanyi. Oh, but this pigeon, and back there for it, like what Ohiz said, it was very rare, especially when you speak pigeon around your parents. Some of your parents might have.
Yeah.
Like, I think I was much more comfortable when I was around like them Okiki, you guys, right? So you speak pidgin, you insult each other like pidgin, banter and all that stuff. So that made me enjoy speaking pidgin and made me understand it. And also, in terms of, I think, Ifeanyi said something about, if we do have kids here, and the whole name, what you're going to name your child.
That's another one.
That's another context, right? You know, you're going to name your child, or it's very okay. Let me give my own personal experience.
If you marry a white woman, with your daughter's name,
my children will post
will your children's name be Chidima Kate?
Yes, my children will have one Igbo name each. That one is not negotiable. I'll even tell the babe if I marry her, I say, see, if it's to sign contract, you go and sign. That one, what will be their first name? That one can be up for discussion.
What?
Yes,
you're gonna say
if I marry somebody, if I marry a Spanish person, my culture is superior to hers, and her culture is superior to mine. So I can't just come out and say her first name is going to be Chidima. Something.
Well, it definitely can't be Jack or Jill.
Jack. I beg.
Chidima Kate Okoli.
Chidima, Chioma, Chiamaka, all those cheese. So nicely, yes, man.
So like I was in like my own personal experience. Even before I moved here, I remember back then in GSO. So I don't think you guys can remember. When we had this thing with Lekki GSO Lekki with the whole
school,
right?
Mm-hmm.
They called my name. I know my name is not like the basic. It's not the usual. It's Ohine, and so many people ask, well, what's the meaning of Ohine? And so they called me and they're like, oh, what's your name? At that time, I was still a very shy person in my own space, and also they called my name and I was like, that was one of the hardest. My name now, just my name. Say your name. What's your? I was like, and I struggled because it was like I didn't want to go through the whole experience I've always normally experienced, which was whenever I talk to my neighbor, like, how do you pronounce it? Or they'll literally butcher
it, yeah.
Yeah, and that's in Niger as well. That's so much worse.
Especially in Niger, right? In 20 seconds. So I was like, you know what? Let me just go to the name that I know it's my name, right? So I said Damila, right? And so many people were looking, and I was like, I couldn't like explain that it was difficult because so many people were like Ohine in Lagos. You know what's going on. So and then later on, and another thing actually affected me because I was like, when I was watching, I wasn't too proud of my name. No, it carried a whole lot of meaning and power, and that's what I'm going to with names, right? I'm not trying to slander anyone. If you name your child Jack, if you name that's up to you, right? If you decide that's what you want to do, that's fine. But also, obviously, we're giving names because they had the meaning, right?
Yeah.
So later, when we moved here, and my brother had the same problem in high school, and his name is Onimisi. I know people don't hear names like that. So and it was like he went through this. I was like, we're not tell these people to pronounce Onimisi, and he was like, okay, let me just go to the biblical name my parents gave me, Peter, and that's what. And then when he told me when I went to high school to pick him up and everything, I would hear Peter. I'm like, bro, what's going on? What's going on? And then I didn't understand, and then we spoke about it, and it was like, there's so many people, especially our kids. If you name them with, for example, Chidima or Tolu or Shehu or Ahmed, you have to kind of literally teach them, and that's why I said we ourselves have a whole lot of work to do. Whereby we shouldn't fail our kids in terms of culture. So
yeah, that's also one thing that I feel needs to stop. Like a friend used to force that thing on me, and funny enough, he has an English name. He grew up here, but he's like Jamaican or whatever. It's like always make sure that to teach people your name. I'm not in the business of like, oh, just call me this instead. But I'm always the type of person that's like, learn my name or don't call me. That's where I've just kind of been at now. It's like, learn my name or don't call my name. Obviously, it's easy now to say that amongst my peers, not my employers, because that's a different...
it's not even the employers thing. As you guys can see, my name, the name tag on that thing is not defined. Now, let me tell you, I disagree with what you said. My personal story here.
Okay.
I was a fresh young lad. I just turned 18. I touched down at, where was it? Edinburgh Airport.
Fresh young lad.
I went to the border. The border, whatever they call those people, asked me, what's your name? So, no, he didn't ask me. He had my paper, my passport. He read out if at least what I think is Ifeanyi. I said, I tell people this story all the time. Until today, I can't replicate what he pronounced. That was the day I made the decision here when I was on the train. I said, everybody I meet isn't going to be able to pronounce Ifeanyi. If I'm being honest with you, even when I was in Niger, there were some Nigerians who couldn't pronounce it properly. I asked myself every time I meet somebody new, do I want to really be teaching them how to pronounce my name? And I know it's easy for people to say, oh, be proud, be proud. I'm proud of my culture. It's not because I'm not actually fine. But it's easy to tell somebody, teach everybody you meet your name. It's easy to say, and then it's difficult to do. That's why I decided to use Emmanuel. I mean, technically, Emmanuel is my first name, actually. So, I mean, that was my story. And even that Emmanuel still, there's sometimes.
I get what you're talking about.
You can pronounce supposedly tedious names. For example, Lewandowski. We can't pronounce this.
See, that's my issue with it. That's my issue with it. If English commentators or whatever can pronounce Blasikowski, Lewandowski, Pulisic, names like that,
Ohine a problem.
That's really a problem. Pronounce it to.
It's like even how I even said that Blasikowski. It's like, even the spelling of that name can give somebody hypertension. But literally, my point is, it's like if I hear you because it's like, oh, why do I have to be teaching everybody? But then you taking that time, obviously, like border patrol, that's different. You're not going to sit there,
and explain to them
do 5 minutes or whatever, trying to teach them what your name is and stuff, because you're just trying to get your freedom and go through and cut through. I'm not trying to talk to I pass border before I start teaching.
But you back, man.
That's what I'm saying. But if it's people that are in your space, say even an employer, an employee, a peer, something like that, and you know that there's going to be instances where they're going to continuously say your name. If you care about them, bro, teach them. My name means My name
The-
means God chose me, bro. I'm
But
proud
the-
of my name, so I'm not allowing anybody else butcher it or call me something else.
But the truth is that you're going to meet people, and it's not everyone you meet you're eventually going to grow close with. There are people I've met that I've gotten close with, and they say, "Oh, this is your middle name," and then they pronounce it, and then every once in a while they will call me that. That's different, you know. But I can't, upon meeting somebody, know if it's somebody I'm going to be seeing every day or somebody I'm going to grow close with eventually. It's just think about how many people you know. And every time you meet somebody, you have to tell them, "No, this is how you pronounce my name. This, bro."
Why not? Why not?
I get what you mean, Ifeanyi. You know,
But like, why not?
You know, we're talking about how we can preserve the culture from generation to generation, and that's, and like I said, I do understand, but you have to understand that those are ways, especially for raising kids that have the Western names, or you know, for example, Chukudi and all those stuff. You have to understand, and that's why I'm saying you have. See, for me, when I came here, you see, the Canadians here, though I know that some of them used to move mad, but like, you will pronounce my name, you have to, and they actually, some of them will ask, you know, like, I know I'm going to, they'll say, "Oh, I know I'm going to butcher your name, but I'm going to learn it," you know.
Exactly.
So I understand when you say, "Oh, I'm not meeting this person again, so I might as well just give them another easy name." No, it's those are ways in which in terms of culture, in terms of like the non-material part, gets lost, right? Because it's like, oh, there's no point. Don't let me stress them. Let me give them something easier.
But why are you making it easier for them?
Because it's their country.
Because if you talk,
To be fair,
Because it's their country.
that's a very insecure mindset.
Wait. I'm the same person. We've been together in this country. You can't. You know me. Do you think I'm somebody who is insecure about my culture?
Of course not. But then that mentality that it is their country, that is an insecure mindset.
Let us be honest. It is their country.
But that.
I mean, I'm not saying that they should just be doing anyhow because it's their country. But if we actually want to break it down logically.
No, but if I deep it, that concept of it is their country lays a precedent for it's a very dangerous precedent, because it's a very dangerous precedent, because they could do a lot with just that statement. So
It's true. It's
a very dangerous thing to do, because that can be used to defend racism, classism, so much.
No.
See, because it's their country.
No. It's their country, therefore they'll be racist. Are they not black English people? Are they stupid?
And England is majority what? And England is majority what?
But they're still black.
I think he meant
that's a false equivalence.
I think he meant that when he was saying that in their country as per, like they're used to pronouncing a particular type of names, and then yours comes in. And to be fair, when I was in first year, I had an accounting teacher, the best accounting teacher I've had in all my 4 years in uni. My name is Okiki. He used to call me Okiko. Now, I corrected him, but he was struggling, So I just said, what, my middle name is Augustine. Even that one he was struggling with. They called me Augustine.
Why did that?
So he started calling me August, And bro, I can't say I was really upset about it, because I kind of understand it, because I can imagine if I was in China, and I've heard some Chinese names that I for the life of me, I can't.
Thank you.
But my thing is,
we're thinking like this is because we grew up in Western culture, so we know how to pronounce their names.
But
deep it's like
I
get what you mean. But sorry, Ohine, go.
Okay, I hear you. I get what you guys are saying. But remember that England is not just only white people. We have people from international students coming over.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and that's what I'm saying. Like, the international students do not tell them to, call me another name. You pronounce their name. You have to pronounce their name. So why, if someone is coming from Japan, he won't call himself Paul so that he can please the white man?
Actually, there's a girl. There was a girl in my course. She's Chinese, Obviously, how many people, Chinese people, do you know are named Chloe? I was like, Chloe? But it's only third year I found out that Chloe is not even on her passport, bro. It's not even like her parents don't even know that she's Chloe, because when she was on the call, they were calling her something else, and we're all friends. I was like, I thought you were Chloe. She was like, oh, she only says that because no one will be able to pronounce my name.
I was going to say that Asians do that a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of Asian, like the Asian demographic, they actually adopt English, like they almost basically like decide upon it, like upon arrival or whatever. So, but at the same time, yeah, okay, fine.
I think
that is how
it varies though, because here they don't. I'm not too sure, but here, I don't think
here it's really common, and it's not like I want to shit on them, but Emmanuel is actually my name. But then some people, so it's not. What I'm saying is that what I'm saying, forget about the whole is their country, whatever. What I'm saying in a nutshell is that I'm changing my name not because I'm not happy to be called Ifeanyi. It is because of ease for me, for my own sanity and my own peace of mind. Because when that border patrol guy pronounced my name, he was anger that entered me first. But if I talk nonsense, they will put me on the plane.
Back to that.
They say, you know what? You're wasting my time. Go back.
You know what? You're wasting my time.
You're wasting my time. Go back. But if I hear what you mean. I hear what you mean. But then how do we want to build a more tolerant society?
Yeah. I understand what Ifeanyi means, and I've been.
I know what you mean, but how are we going to build a more tolerant society?
There are other ways.
White people and whatever. Sorry, let me learn. When like people, like we were trying to get white people or whatever, or just people from different cultures to understand what we go through, our cultural practicing and retete. How are we going to get people to understand that and actually empathize with a lot of the stuff that we are going through if we're trying to make things easy for them? And I understand, okay, fine, it's their country. But even though, again, that lays a very dangerous precedent, I'm glad that you obviously like asked it out. But my point is, if we just leave it as a thing where it's like, man, like, just call me this instead, the same way, okay, fine. The only reason that we can pronounce these Western names or whatever is as a result of colonialism or whatever. So in a way, we're forced, we learn the English language, fine. But if we want to build a society where people down the line, future generations, our children, don't have to worry about calling themselves different things or changing their names or even being ashamed of their names. Because there's a lot of people, not even just black people, Asian people, or wherever the case may be, grow up ashamed of their names. If we want to build a society where that isn't the situation, we have to start now by correcting people.
The first thing I want to say is that I just hope people don't get another perception of me because they don't know me personally. Because the way I've been talking here is a bit mad, I understand. But first of all, is that the name isn't the only factor in all of this.
Yeah.
So, for example, I already told you about my accent. Now, when I told you, I also told you that sometimes you may have to tweak it a little so people can understand what you're saying. But at the same time, I noticed that the closer people get to you, the more they understand your accent. So I speak normally amongst the people I'm close to, the way I speak to you. Yeah. If we're both out in public and I'm speaking to you, I'm not speaking to a white person, I speak pidgin to you, at least you can verify that. So it's not a matter of being ashamed of my culture. There's been a situation where, because of the way uni is, and I'm sure you guys have also done it, there's a situation where everyone's bored at night and we're like, oh, let's go out to a restaurant. And like, there's an Italian beside you, and like, oh, do you want to try Italian food today? And then another day, it's like, oh, let's try Nigerian food today or something like that. Mm-hmm. That's me solving the issue you just proposed now.
You're right.
How do we make them more tolerant towards our culture? The fact that I changed my name doesn't mean there aren't other ways I can still be doing that. Because it's not just limited to what my name is.
Our food is always the right way to go, especially when you give them Jira.
No. It's fine. I hear you. But why it be a thing where it's like, okay, let me like introduce you to my culture in this way, as opposed to why not me introduce you to my culture in all ways?
Because
the food isn't always going to be available. Your name is your name.
Because
your name is your name.
Because the personal stress to me, and anybody can feel any way they want, but to me, the personal stress of saying, no, this is how you pronounce it fine. No, this is how you pronounce it fine. It's not. There's not something I can do. And I am speaking from experience because I grew up. Wait. I want people to understand where I'm coming from. I grew up in Nigeria. I grew up in Lagos. I grew up in Lagos. Believe me when I say this thing, I have been through it before. And I'm not comparing Yoruba people to white people. Obviously, we're all the same in the country. But I still have to, there's still been situations where I have to teach teachers, this is how you pronounce it fine. This is how you pronounce it fine. As a kid, I've already gone through that. And it wasn't something I wanted. And in my mind, if it's this hard for people that live in Nigeria, how's it going to be for
what more people will know do that?
Allegedly don't even like us. So that's what I was thinking about, bro. But I mean, I understand where you're coming from.
He said allegedly.
I can't lie, but if I had the chance to do it over again, do the same thing.
But what happens when you're outside with your own kids, right? Because we're talking about also with our children, like because so what happens when you're with your own child, you know, and you're in a position whereby someone is asking, you know, like you said most of your things are because of short term, the people you're meeting, like you don't have to fully explain. But what happens whereby, and because we're teaching our kids, right? So what happens whereby you're also in public and people are asking for your name and you say, Emmanuel, though it's your name, right? And you told your kids that your name is your pride, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now, what would you tell your child when he's there? Because you feel like you're contradicting yourself, but Daddy, you told me.
You told me that our culture is a
I'll tell my kid what I told you guys. I will give my kid the reason why I started using Emmanuel first, because of everything I've talked about. And
I'm sorry.
I don't see how he would think. He wouldn't think that's a problem because he would see a.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
That's what I want to explain.
Sorry, Ifeanyi, I have to. I'm sorry. I'm even up. No, but I just want to say something quickly, yeah. But I disagree with that person or whatever because like it's kind of contradicting yourself because you give yourself, you give your kids this name or whatever, and try and instill to them that they should be proud of their name. But then when you go outside and they're calling you something different, to a point, if they're calling you something different, they're going to be thinking to themselves when they're in school or whatever, is like, okay, call me this instead because that's what my pops did.
Now, I would have no problem with that. First of all, think broader. That's why I said this thing is not confined to just your name. Think broader. Now, to answer Ohine's question first, my kid wouldn't have any problem seeing that because I would tell him, this is why I use Emmanuel. And he's not going to question my faith in my culture because there would be a multitude of other things that would suggest that I actually do love the culture. And I have given him a logical explanation why I'm not using my name in this specific. Now, if my child goes and he does that exact same thing, I wouldn't fault him because I understand why he's doing it. Because he doesn't want to be correcting people all the time. And if somebody came to me and said that their name is Jack, instead of the Chiamaka is a girl's name and Jack is a boy's name, but you get what I mean. Instead of Chiamaka, I will understand because of my personal story. But when you think about other things, for example, what logical explanation could somebody have for forming accents in Nigeria? But first of all, when they're in Nigeria, what logical explanation is there? What logical explanation is there for people to be speaking their accent when they are in the midst of people that will understand the accent they normally speak? What's the problem with that? What is the problem with me wearing my national attire, maybe on October 1st, even though I'm here, maybe with a coat? What is the problem with that? There's no problem with that. The only reason I have chosen to use Emmanuel over Ifeanyi is simply because of ease. If everybody would pronounce Ifeanyi, everybody would be calling me Ifeanyi. What's my business?
Is it?
I carry my on my head, though. All this one, I don't tell you. I don't want to talk. Maybe they don't go hire me. But after I don't reach one side, no be suit I go dey wear. Now lion print I go dey wear.
The lion prints, the red hats, the staff. You have to bring the staff.
Everything.
I do agree. And there's even another instance I'm even looking at. You know, most times when we're in the supermarket, especially when we're with people from different culture, different country, you hear them speaking their language. But us, we Nigerians, sometimes, let me not generalize everything. You know, sometimes we speak English among ourselves. When we go out, we're speaking English. But then you hear the Ethiopians speaking their language, especially, you know. And that's another way whereby it's like is in quotes. Even some people say pigeon as Raz, or they see it as
Or
even
just unintelligent or beneath them.
Yeah.
so it's like, and that's another problem because like, and that's why I used to envy them. I'm not even going to lie. I used to envy them sometimes. Like, you see these guys speaking their language, they do this, they
Yeah.
do that in public, and us we saw. That's why I can't generalize, right? But like from our own personal experience, we speak English to ourselves, and if someone that decides to, or you see someone now speaking in their own language, you turn your head and you're like, what's going on? It will feel weird to you, right? And we need to stop that.
To
Where
stop
like,
that, yeah.
Yeah.
because like, how would I speak my language and it's weird or it's Raz in quotes? And other
A
people
language that we where we all came from,
okay from
Yeah.
that.
Exactly.
It troubles me because I see a lot of people. I'm like, excuse you, like these people are here preserving their. I know culture is diverse, right? There are areas like if we're looking at it in terms of language, so that there won't be language barriers in future, right? So it's like I can't be in public and I'm trying to. My mom, for example, even before we came here, she was like, our mothers are. They don't have to, so they don't have to shout at you. Just one look, you're
This
done
one
for,
look is over.
right? So it's like, no, like imagine if when you're small and you're here misbehaving. I can't slap you, I can't hit you, I can't shout at you, right?
Yeah.
I will just give you one strong Yoruba thing. You humble yourself and so, you can't expect her to speak English and tell her, behave yourself. She will just give you look, speak her language.
I understand you, bro.
So
I feel you, man. At the end of the day, I just feel, just to round it up, I just feel like it's up to us in our own ways to preserve the culture. And yes, sometimes you can just go to a parent and say, "Oh, should have done this, should have done that," or whatever. But at the same time, if us from our own end aren't doing our best to preserve the culture, to learn the culture, and push it forward to the point that the generation after us won't feel ashamed by it or anything like that, then we're just as culpable as our parents or some of our parents that refuse to kind of like ease us into this culture. And that's just my take with it, man.
Fair
That's my
enough.
take on it, bro.
All in all, just
To me,
embrace
for
your
me, I
culture.
don't think the culture is going anywhere because we're just a small subset of people.
Yeah, the
And
culture
even
isn't going anywhere.
even in our small group, there's still people who have sense, people who
Yeah.
embrace it. So I think the people we're talking about are the extreme minority, but obviously still worth talking about.
Absolutely.
And to be
Absolutely.
honest, I think this is a problem that's only prevalent in our age group because older Nigerians, even the way they behave in Nigeria, that's the way they behave here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
Same way we're
thing.
allowed, that's the same way they're allowed here. Somebody, when we were protesting, sir, somebody brought downfall. Downfall.
How'd you bring it down for to London? How did you do it?
Older Nigerian, even bro, I love being in the city because there are a lot of people that are like me. I
Diversity
my
in
undergrad
London
in
is
Scotland, and you will travel far and wide to meet another black person.
In
But
fact.
here, even here, because there's a guy who works downstairs. Yeah, like he's like the receptionist. He saw my name and he noticed my name and he asked me in Igbo if I was Igbo. And I said yes. And I said yes. But I told him that my speaking is kind of somehow. Till today, anytime he sees me, he speaks Igbo to me here. Whether people are here, whether people are not here. And he's like maybe he's like he's an older guy, so it's like in his maybe late 40s, early 50s. So I think it's a problem with us actually, not even with the older generation, because they get the plot, man.
Yeah, it's not like the older generation because them lot, like especially even just factoring my cousins or whatever, they know the language fluently.
Yeah.
Like they know it fluently. It's really a generation. That's what I'm saying. It's up to us in our own ways to fight for it to be a thing that even the whole possibility of it being wiped away or whatever is never in a conversation.
yeah, it's like you said, it's definitely has to be preserved rather, and we definitely have to do a whole lot of work. I think most of the conversation we focus on in terms of like language and all that. But at the end of the day, we just have to put in the work. And I feel like the conversation, like I said, it's kind of like focused on people that live abroad. Especially when you are raising kids that are literally living in the white man's land. So I think it's not my main focus because if you're like Nigerian, you do not speak your language, then you probably have to learn your language.
Yeah.
So like for people that are here, especially when you're raising kids that have so many questions, so many things, and as parents, there's a whole lot of pressure. You have to find the right answer, So we just have to do a whole lot of work, and it's like for me, it's like God, bro, you need to speak. You need to you have to do better. And
Yeah.
in terms of food, in terms of now I'm not even thinking about it. There's so many. I don't know the other aspect like Igbo and Hausa, with their history, but like for Yoruba, we have like in terms of like the music and also with the folk stories.
Yeah.
How many of us even know folk stories? How many? And those are the interesting parts. And there was a time when I was writing, I feel like this is going to get long, but like I just know that I'm just remembering everything, just like wow. There's a time in Nigeria history. For us, when we did history was
World War One.
World War II.
Well, like in Nigeria, so my mom has this theory whereby she told me, she said, you can't be in Nigeria and you know write a Nigerian exam. Possible. It doesn't make sense, right? So she told me, I wrote WIAC and I wrote the usual stuff. And because I was used to GSL stuff, literature, bro, we have people like so Denny, you literature, we had, but like when I went to write the exam, I know it's a different thing.
Curriculum and everything, yeah.
Exactly. But when I went to the exam hall, people that are writing history are only 10. Only 10. Bro, Nigerian history in terms of like, even like Oduduwa, I said Oduduwa, Shango, all those folk. Like, even if you don't believe in it, that's fine. But like, it's just a way of
preserving the tradition, yeah.
And it's like Nigeria, we don't know. Nigerian history is done in terms of like people learning it. If you don't learn it personally for yourself, if it's not taught, in terms of it, not there. In GSL, what they teach us now? Well, Hitler with the men now.
Man. Even that Biafran war was just my one. I don't even know. I think we were traveling one day and we crossed one bridge, and that's what sparked the story. I didn't even know that.
I didn't know until that day on the group. Until that day on the group, I didn't even know.
I didn't know. That was when I was like 15, 16. That's when I found out we had a civil war in 1960. And we're learning about World War I.
So yeah, it's
again
crazy,
at the end of the day, just to round up, it's up to us to fight for this culture thing, man. It's easy for us to say, easy for us to say that parents, but at the end of the day, like if we really want to preserve it, we have to learn about our culture, we have to preserve it, we have to make sure it's passed on to the younger generation and keep fighting for it and not calling ourselves Emmanuel. But anyways, guys. Anyways, guys, thank you for coming through as always. Ohine, thank you so much for hopping on the show, man.
Thank you so much, man.
Obviously, we see the support, everything you show us, and it's blessed, bro. It's a lot from over here from us, bro.
all of.
Bless, my guy. And as always, thank you guys that are watching this. You guys already and listening. You guys already know what to do. Spotify, Apple Music, Anchor, or wherever you get your podcast from. Admin Ohiz, the boys. Ohine, thank you so much again. And yeah, Green Passport, we out.
Thank you, sir.
Peace.
That was a nice one.
That was good. Yeah, it was good.
It was good.